Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make your working drawing for your puzzle cube in the drawing file within SolidWorks. So this is going to be our kind of title page here at the very end of what it will look like. Notice we have our exploded view. All of them are labeled with our balloons. We have our isometric over here of our total puzzle cube when it's all assembled. We have everything annotated or labeled. And we also have our bill of materials or parts list up here at the top. And last but not least, down here at the bottom is our title block. Okay, so to start out, we need to go up to File, New, and we want the drawing file, so we can press OK. And here it's going to ask you to select your layout. So if I had time, I may have already loaded this into your computer, which you can kind of see on my computer. The display screen right here shows that custom title block that I made. And if I did have time to do this, this would be the very first one. Okay, this would be the A size, which is your normal size piece of paper, and in landscape. Even if I didn't have time, this is still the template that we will use here. So you can press OK. And notice that I do have that custom title block down here at the bottom. You may or may not. But to start out, we now need to go up to View Layout, and we will click the Model View. Okay. Now notice over here on our left side, it's asking us to insert a part or an assembly. So you will hit the Browse button, and you'll have to find your folder where you saved your puzzle cube. So this defaulted right in here to my folder because I was previously working on other files. And I am first going to select my assembly. I'll press the Open button. And it should, or normally, it gives you kind of the flat front view, your orthographic here. So over on the left side in what I will call your browser, sliding down, it gives you a whole bunch of different options. So the first option that we want to select under standard views is the isometric option. Okay, so now it changed it to an isometric. And if you still can't see this, if you just have a rectangle, it's probably because you don't have the preview button selected here. So you can kind of see that's what you might have. If you have that selected, you'll actually be able to see your whole assembly. Okay, I'll continue to slide down here. And then you have some display styles. So the first one is kind of your wireframe. We learned about what that is before. So that's your total outline. So that's just a jumbled mess. And then you have your wireframe with hidden lines visible. So that even makes it worse. Okay, then you have just the outside wireframe. Okay, so now you can no longer see through things. And then you have the two display styles that we want for our isometrics. One is shaded with edges, okay, and one is shaded without edges. Now, sometimes it will be nicer to actually use the shaded without edges, but for this example and this project, we're going to use the shaded with edges, just so we can see our different parts. They're a lot more defined here. Okay. The next options that you have here are your scale and kind of your display state. So our scale, this is really going to depend on how big your actual part is. Now on this first page, it's pretty jam-packed with all the stuff that we need to put. So having our assembly this big would almost take up too much room. So instead of using the sheet scale, I'm going to change this to a custom scale. And then when this drop down opens up, I'm going to select 2/3. So we all should have the same size puzzle cube. So we all should be able to use 2/3. Okay, so I've shrunk it down just a little bit. Now your dimension type over here on the left side, that should be true. And your cosmetic thread display, that can be on high quality. Okay. Now I'm going to move my mouse over here to the right, and I'm going to click to place this. And once I click to place this, I'm going to hit this green check. That's the closed dialog box. Okay. Now, if I am off of this and I ever want to edit it again, notice when I roll my mouse over it, these dotted lines come up. If I want to edit this, I just simply double click on these dotted lines and that same option bar pops up. So if you forgot to do something like turn on the shaded edges, you can always go back here and do that again. And then just hit the green check and it will update everything. So that's the first part of this. Notice the next portion here. Oops, sorry. The next portion here is to put in our exploded view. So that's going to be right there. Then we're going to add balloons and our bill of materials or parts list up at the top. So next we need to be on the View Layout tab still. Hit Model View. Since we just put in our assembly, it should already be here, your open documents. If you double click on this, it now will allow you to kind of place another one of these. But this time we are going to check this little tiny box here that says Show in Exploded State. So you're going to pick your exploded state, which I only did one of them, so it should be okay. That should be the one. And you're going to say, well, why didn't it update? Well, it might take a little bit for the computer to think through this. Normally when I change this here, this orientation to isometric, normally that fixes it for me. Now notice this doesn't really fit on the page. So later we will get down here and we will have to change the scale. So moving down, I'm going to change my display state so it matches this, which was the shaded with edges. And then instead of using the sheet scale, I'm going to change to a custom scale. And I'll have to shrink this down to a half. Now, some of you might have made your exploded view much more kind of pulled away from one another, much more bigger than I did. So you're going to have to play with your scale here a little bit, but the half scale works perfectly fine for me. So I'm going to click in place. Okay, forgot to select the high quality down here, but I will click to place. Okay, and then I will hit the green check. And notice mine kind of moved it down for some reason. So I'll just click and move this back up. Okay. And then the next thing here is to annotate it. So annotate, remember, means to add labels. Okay, so if I go to the Annotate tab, I can go up to Balloons. And the balloon tool works pretty easy. You move your mouse over this, and since we do have edges actually showing, it kind of locks to these edges. So if you find one of the flat parts of your, or the flat sides or edges of your parts, like I'm doing here, it kind of just automatically places the balloon a set distance away. So I will click on this line, and then I'm going to click my mouse again, and it placed it. So now I can continue to move around and do this. Okay, so it's almost like a double click. And you're going to say, well, why are these out of order? Well, SolidWorks automatically knows the order that you drew these parts in. So although I call the red part over here part 1 red, as you can kind of see, I drew this the 5th one because that's my hardest one to draw. This was my easiest one to draw, or second easiest. This is probably the easiest, but that's actually the first part that I drew. So the computer knows that this is the first one that I drew, even though I want to call that my 5th part. Okay, then I'll go over here and I'll hit the green check. And next we are going to add our bill of materials up here at the top. To do that, we need to go up to where it says Tables, hit that little drop down, and then select Bill of Materials. Okay. Now it's going to ask us to select a drawing view, so we're just going to click on our exploded view. Okay. And then it's going to ask you your BOM standards. That's your Bill of Materials standards. Okay. So I can hit the green check. And then I'm just going to move this up here so that it locks into this top line, and so that the right side of my table here locks into the right line. Then I'm going to click in place. Now notice this is kind of overlapping everything else. So I might have to kind of shrink down some of these different cells so that everything actually fits. So take some time to do that. And then slide that over into place. Notice on this I had to grab the corner to shrink the cell's kind of height here. I grabbed that little corner. Okay. Now you may or may not have this written in the description. To get this into the description, just double click on this, and if it gives you this link, you can hit break link, and then you can type in 0.75, and that's the little inch mark, which to get that on your key, or to get that on your keyboard, you have to hold in shift and then hit the quote mark. Okay. And then I typed in wooden cube. So that's 3/4 of an inch wooden cube. Okay. Now the last thing to do here is to kind of label this. So to do that, we're going to go up to where it says note. And I'm going to click right about here. Stretch this note a little bit. And here I'm going to type in puzzle cube exploded view. I'll highlight that. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, right around 18. Okay, and then I'm going to click next to this, or just click outside of it. And that's going to allow me to kind of retype something else now that I'm no longer on that. So I'll go back up to the note, and I'll click underneath the assembly. Here I'm going to stretch this once again, change this to 18. And here I'm going to type in puzzle cube assembly. And I'll click off. If you need to reposition these at all, you can. Or if you notice sometimes this happens when you move over a note that you just typed, it constantly wants to place another note. And what will happen is you'll try to click to get off of this, and then you'll have 100 of these notes. Remember, if you need to get off of a tool, you just hit escape. Okay. So this is our first page. So over here where it says sheet 1, if we double click on this, it should allow us to change the name. So we can name this cover page. Enter on your keyboard to stop typing in there. Once you do this, this is a good spot to save because we are actually done with our first page. So go up to File, you can hit Save As, and then you can name this Puzzle Cube Drawing File. Okay. You'll hit Save, and then we will pick up with the second video.